Hi guys, this is Ruta Gunde from Genetrix and I am back with another video, and in this particular video we will have a deeper dive into SPF for Marketing Cloud. So when it comes to using SPF with Marketing Cloud, you need to configure the SPF record for your domain to include Marketing Cloud's sending IP addresses. Now this ensures that when Marketing Cloud sends emails on your behalf, the SPF check will pass. Let's have a look at a few important aspects of SPF. First up is the SPF record. Now the SPF record is a DNS TXT, that is text record, associated with your domain that specifies the authorized email servers allowed to send email on behalf of your domain. It contains the mechanisms and modifiers that define the rules for SPF checks. Next is the authorized sending sources. Identifying and including the IP addresses or host names of email servers that are authorized to send email on behalf of your domain in the SPF record. This ensures that legitimate email sources are properly authenticated. Next, we check the mechanisms. SPF uses mechanisms to define the authorized sending sources. Common mechanisms include A, as in the word A, MX. Next, we have the IP4, IP6, and include. Okay. Next, we will have a better look at the mechanisms in the later part of this video. Next, we have is the soft fail and the hard fail. SPF provides two different results for SPF checks. Soft fail. Now this indicates that the SPF check has failed but should be treated as a warning rather than a definitive reason for rejecting the email. Hard fail, on the other hand, indicates that the SPF check has failed and the email should be rejected or flagged as suspicious. Next is the neutral and pass. Besides soft fail and hard fail, SPF can also yield a neutral result, which indicates that the SPF check result is inconclusive. Now the pass indicates that the SPF check has succeeded and the email is authorized. Next we have is the multiple SPF records. It's only important to have only one valid SPF record per domain. Multiple SPF records can cause conflicts and lead to unpredictable SPF check results. If you need to combine multiple sources, use the include mechanism to include the SPF records of the authorized sources. Next we have is the DNS propagation. After making changes to your SPF record, allow time for the DNS changes to propagate. Now the DNS propagation can take up to 48 hours, during which the updated SPF record may not have been immediately recognized by all the email servers. Last we check is monitoring and maintenance. Now regularly monitoring your SPF record for changes in authorized sending sources is important. Update the SPF record as necessary to reflect changes in your email infrastructure, such as adding or removing email servers or IP addresses. Now let's have a look at how does the SPF record work. Let's take a look at an SPF policy in action and see how the process unfolds. Now at a high level, here is the workflow of how a mail server checks SPF. First, the server with the IP address of 1.2.3.4 sends an email, and the email is using bounces@example.com as the return path. Now receiving the mail server grabs the return path domain and checks out the domain's DNS records, for example.com, looking for the SPF record. The receiving server found the SPF record for example.com. Now it checks if any of the IP addresses listed as valid senders for the domain match the address that was used to send the email. In this particular example, it's a match. So the sending IP 1.2.3.4 is listed as approved sender, so the SPF passes. If the SPF addresses do not match, that would cause the SPF to fail. So this would likely make the receiving server suspicious and they might reject the mail. Now let's go through the SPF record syntax and its breakdown. SPF record syntax might look complicated and confusing at first, but it is fairly easy to understand once you know the basics. So let's look at a breakdown of the key elements, also called the mechanisms, in an example SPF record entry. Now the first thing to note in the syntax is the SPF record. So if it's broken down into the version, prefix, one or more mechanisms. The version prefix is pretty simple. Now, since there can be multiple TXT records for a domain, this is the way to let parsers know that this is the record to be used for SPF checking. Now, the second part of the SPF record are the mechanisms. These specify different rules on how to check for SPF. What are SPF qualifiers? This is another important question that we need to address. So the mechanisms can solve or also have a prefix that describes the action to take when a sending IP matches the qualifier. The default qualifier is a plus sign. So the postmark or SPF record is the same as the given in the picture. So let's go over what qualifiers are available. So first is the plus sign, that is the pass sign. In an IP address that matches the mechanism with this qualifier will pass SPF. Next is a minus sign, that is a fail. Now an IP address that matches a mechanism with this qualifier will fail SPF. Next is the soft fail. An IP address that matches a mechanism with this qualifier will soft fail for SPF, which means that the host should accept the mail but mark it as an SPF failure. Next is the neutral. An IP that matches a mechanism with this qualifier will neither pass or fail SPF. Now another question rises, that is what are SPF mechanisms? Let's go through them one by one. The A mechanism. So let's say that I send an email from IP address 1.2.3.4 for the domain example.com. If example.com has a record, A record that returns 1.2.3.4, then this mechanism will pass. Next is the MX mechanism. So any domain that hosts an email has one or more MX records. These records define which email servers can replay email. For instance, when using Google Apps, you insert several MX records into DNS. Including the MX mechanism automatically approves these servers and avoids you to having them to the list individually. Now this also avoids maintaining the list if they change later. The include mechanism. So let's say that I send an email from IP address 1.2.3.4 for the domain example.com. If SPF record for example.com includes spf.mtasv.net and 1.2.3.4 passes against the SPF record for spf.mtasv.net, this mechanism will pass. The all mechanism. Now the all mechanism will match against everything, and in this case the result will be a soft fail for everything that gets to this point. How to check your SPF records? Now there are two types. One could be the terminal or your local machine, and the other one would be online tools. So for the local machine, we have the dig command on Mac OS or Linux. And next we have is the nslookup command for Windows, Mac OS or Linux. Okay. And for the online tools, there are quite a few. I just could mention three right now. That is the DNS checker, the Mimecast, and AccuWeb hosting. Now, by paying attention to these important aspects, you can properly configure and maintain your SPF record, enhancing your email deliverability, reducing the risk of email spoofing, and improving the overall security of your email communications. For more information related to any SFMC topics, please do reach out to us on our website genetrix.tech, or simply write to us at admin@genetrix.tech. Thank you very much.